Hello everyone, Thranxes here, and welcome back to Stationeers episode 8, where today we're going to be going into the penalty box room and using the big furnace, which we're going to make sure we use properly, to make the more advanced alloys inside of a pressurized box in space. All right, we're going to set the solar panels to be ready for sunrise on the other side. And let's head out into space. Now, one of the things that I thought about doing with the solar panels was to set them up on the side so that they rotate around in a circle and track the sun continuously, which you can do, but you don't get as much wattage from the solar panels when they hit. They peak out at around 350, 360, and they never quite reach the 490 wattage, which, oh, hey, look, a cooler. Consumable supplies. Oh my goodness. I was so looking for this one. I had to make the tool manufactory just to get my spray paint. Oh my goodness. Let's bring this in. Let's capture it. See, nothing really escapes. Even when it drifts off, it doesn't quite achieve escape velocity. Here, cancel pressurization. We don't have enough to reach 1 atmosphere anyways. I'm going to have to build a place to store all this stuff. Oh yeah, look, tracking beacon with a battery in it. Oh my, an extra battery. Here, we'll put the tracking beacon in here. Although I guess it should have a battery, huh? Let's give it a big one. No, it doesn't use that much power, right? We'll just leave the battery. We'll leave the battery on or in it. You never know when you're going to need it. And then all these extra spray paint cans. That's cool. Okay, back to what we were doing. We're going to go get some lead, because unfortunately that's the one thing I don't have. So we're going to show a little bit how these asteroids work. Really, you just pick one, whichever one looks good. And then you start going to it. As you can see, it does use your propellant pretty good. And even though your jetpack does automatically go in the opposite direction to stop you, it's not an immediate stop. So you need to make sure that you don't push yourself too fast going to where you want to go. And as you can see, there's a lot of resources on some of these. Some of these they don't have as many. This one apparently does. Doesn't look like there's any lead. Well, I don't want to bring back a ton of stuff. Let's just find some lead. Okay, we've gathered all the metal we're going to gather for this one trip. Let's find our ship back. Now, if you're ever having trouble, it's always in the center of mass of the asteroids. So if you look and you don't see any asteroids, you're probably looking the wrong way. And even if you can't see it, if you head for the center of mass, you'll likely see its reflections or shadows, respectively, depending on which side of it that you are on. Look at it. Boy, it really doesn't look like much from the outside, does it? Now I've taken this opportunity of running around out there to grab some metals that I don't normally grab. So we'll get a few of those. One of the things I did grab, which is always fun, is oxide. So I'm going to pull it out and let it pressurize this area. And then I'm just going to start throwing it around the base so that we can hopefully get up to 1 atmosphere. Woo! And that thing will just whip itself around as it sublimates and adds a significant amount of oxygen to the base atmosphere. Yay for that. Let's turn off this and let's turn off that. Now I was going to make extra solder. But I think I'm actually going to leave some lead unused, perhaps. Not sure. We're also going to go ahead and smelt silicon and see what that looks like. Which it looks like silicon actually does produce some pollutants. So let's go ahead and let's get our air scrubber in place. And we're going to need a battery. Of course, I didn't close off the vents now. I had yet to smelt silicon in the arc furnace. Let's go ahead and turn you off. And we'll charge this battery while we get the solar panels in place. They should be at 100. You can see how much propellant I used. Almost 1,000 kPa. Just in that trip running around looking for the specific material that is the lead. So let me smelt the silicon and get us back to where we're ready to go. And let me separate this lead out, and I'll bring you right back. Okay, so now that we've got all that taken care of, our silicon is smelted, it's time to make some of the more advanced metals. We're going to be starting with steel. Now, the thing to note about steel is that it requires 100 kilopascals to 10,000 kilopascals. Lucky for you, because this thing will get up over 1,000 kilopascals relatively quickly. Now, by contrast, the other item we're going to be making is solder, and as you can see, that has a limit of 300 kilopascals to 3,500 kilopascals. So that's going to actually be a lower temperature, but also a lower pressure and a lower temperature. Steel can actually get pretty high pressure and pretty hot. Now the most cleanest burn, I'll say the most, but the cleanest burn that I'm aware of, the ratio of making steel is 2 parts H2, 1 part oxygen. So we have 66% input from one, which is over here, 34% input from oxygen over here. And we're going to get this thing going. Now, one of the things that I will say, the first thing that I do, even though I might not have to, is I vacuum the room. So let's make sure our mask is on and locked. Then we're going to kick this vent on and initiate our volume pump, and that's going to reduce the pressure in here so we don't risk having any fires with this highly oxygenated atmosphere. So the first thing you need to do is vacuum the room, because if you don't vacuum the room out, you could end up with a situation like this. And then we can start it, and boom, 60 ingots of steel. Okay, we're getting a little bit warm, so we're going to go ahead and vent the pressure into space, because that's all we're going to smelt. And there is the... Oh no! Oh no! Here, we need to break open a wall! Oh, before the atmosphere goes! Here, break it open, break it open! Let us out so we can be free! Oh! Right, but then let's say you need to vacuum out the room so you don't ignite this highly oxygenated atmosphere. Now, on top of vacuuming out the room, the second thing you can run into is here with the pressure chamber. Now, this regulator is going to pressurize the pipe and everything behind it to that pressure. Now, it's set really low, but if you've seen before, if I put anything at all into this furnace, even the metal, it's going to get pressure, which then means this regulator has to fill the pipe with more pressure of your precious fuel to ignite the process. So you actually want to pump your fuel into the furnace. Oh, look, another cooler floating around outside. Oh, well, we'll have to get it some other time. The squirrel... So you want to pump your pressure into the furnace early, or you might end up with something like this because you overpressurized the pipe and the reaction wouldn't stop. No, it's too much. We have to get to the airlock. It's too much. No, we have to get to the airlock. No, quick, cycle, cycle. Shut the door. No, no, no. Emergency override. Cancel, cancel. Just. Oh, it ejected us out of the airlock, but our suit's intact. Oh my goodness, it threw us out here. Oh, we've got a fire inside of our suit. Hold on. Let's flush this. Let's flush the oxygen out of the suit. Yep, we got a tear in our suit. We're gonna have to tape up. Has the fire gone out already? Oh no. No, it was way over pressurized. Now that being said, we've got the room almost vacuumed out. Let's turn on our mixer. We've got the proper ratio. The pressure is set to 200 kPa, which is what we're going to see here in the furnace. And then once it hits 200, that is enough to start your reaction. Just that little bit of fuel is actually enough to get it as hot as we need for steel. So let's turn off the mixer and the regulator. You don't want to leave those running, especially at a high pressure, while you've got your reaction going. So from here, we'll put in our coal and our steel. Let's go ahead and put our tablet away. Get our coal and our iron. We're going to make steel. Now the atmosphere isn't quite vacuumed out yet, but it's getting there. I dare say it's probably good enough at this point. We might even be starting to overpressurize that room a little bit over there, which is why that vent is having to work extra hard. So let's go ahead. We're going to put in the iron. Boop, 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 boop. And you can see the pressure is going up, which again, if you try to set this valve to overpressurize, to fight against the pressure of what you've already put in there. So now if you need, yeah, it'll cause a bad reaction. So from here, we can activate the furnace. Boom, you can see we'll make 60 ingots of steel. Bam, eject the steel out. You still have time in your reaction to keep going. So you simply add more coal, more iron, still have the proper pressure and temperature, and you can see, bip, will produce 60 ingots of steel. We're going to close that. As long as we still have enough pressure and temperature in the reaction, which we should, it's still hot enough. 60 ingots of steel. And this coal is actually light. Nope, no, no, no. 6, 7, 8, 9, 15. There we go. A little bit unorganized. I apologized. We should still have enough. Got to put that iron back in. And hopefully it's still hot enough with enough pressure. It's cooling down. 60 ingots of steel. Boom. Okay, now that we've made all of that delicious steel, 460 gram ingots, I think we can go ahead and turn off this vent, as it looks like this is as low pressure as we're going to get this room. Now we can, in fact, turn on our air conditioner. Oh, I forgot to bring a battery. It's okay. It shows we're leaking pressure back into the room. Because I forgot the most important thing about vacuuming out this room is to cut off the shared valve. You have to flip this. The reason this is colored white instead of red, though, is this is good air. This puts all the good air back in here. Now, once this room is vacuumed out, which I was going to say it should have happened by now. Once this room is vacuumed out, we're going to let the pressure and the temperature lower in this a little bit. And we're almost at a full vacuum in here. Just about. The next thing we're going to make is some solder. And we'll put our 50 coal back in here. All right, at this point you can see it's starting to get fairly warm in here. So what we're going to do once we have an actual vacuum is we're going to eject this furnace out of here, and it's going to vent way up above. It's a frame located above into space. So at this point, you just want to make sure that nobody is in that area. There you go, vent off. We're now in a vacuum. And release. Boom, and there you go. You can see it gets rid of all that pressure. And then we'll give it a minute, and then it'll also get rid of the temperature. Okay, and now that we've got the pressure and the temperature fully out of the furnace, we're going to close the valve back off into space. And the next thing we're going to be doing is solder. So remember, solder needs a more cool, less pressure mixture. So I find half oxygen and half volatiles will do it. We also want to take this down to about 150. Now you can experiment with various amounts of fuel and pressure for what you need, for what your purposes are, but this is what I found works for me. So we're going to go ahead and pressurize 150 kPa into the furnace, add a 50-50 mix of oxygen and volatile. There we go, cut those off. And now from here, we should be able to initiate our reaction and observe. Okay, that's a little bit too much on the pressure, actually. You can see as we put our lead and iron in. Let's see, 25 iron, and then the lead, you'll see. We're not going to get solder, and that's because we're a little bit too high. Let's go ahead and grab our handheld tablet again. You can see solder requires, let's see, the temperature range. We're within the temperature range, but we're over pressurized. So we need the kPa to be below 3,500. So probably I would have put a little less fuel in. I probably would have pressurized it to maybe 100 kPa instead of 150 kPa initially before turning on the furnace. But we should have enough temperature that it's not a problem. So all we have to do now is just wait for the furnace to naturally cool down, even though it is heating up the room around it pretty significantly. But we're in a vacuum, so we're not going to have any chance of a fire. Or we're in a near vacuum. I guess these doors are airtight. I could have sworn some air got through, but I suppose not. You can see the closer we get to the furnace, the hotter it is. And we'll just wait for the pressure to go down a little bit, and I'll bring you back in a moment. Okay, and it's that moment we've been waiting for. We're below 3,500 kPa, and now we get 50 grams of solder. So let's go ahead and kick that out. Boom. Then we'll put in our next 25 lead. Gives us a bit more pressure we're going to have to slough off, but it cools our temperature down as well. And we're going to have to wait for it to cool down again. Okay, there you have it. So all I did was flip our little release valve really fast just to get the pressure out, and you can see we're going to get 50 grams more of solder. Boom. So now we've got solder and we've got steel. Now steel I made more of because we're going to need lots and lots of steel for various things. The solder I only made a little bit of because I'm sure there's going to be more that we need it for eventually. But the big reason that you need solder up front is for APCs. If you want to have your stuff backed up on a battery in case of a power outage or issue, you need to have solder to make additional area power controllers. Okay, at this point, we're going to go ahead and vent again, and then vent again. We're just going to keep giving it little bitty incremental vents until we can get it into the yellow zone. Its temperature is still pretty high. I don't really want to oxygenate the room just yet. As you can see, the box itself is getting quite hot. But I know the air in the other room is super duper cold, so should not be an issue. I think we're good to go, but I'm going to go ahead and keep venting it anyways. I don't want to take any chances. I want to get this heat and everything out of here. Okay, while we're letting that thing air out, let's go ahead and take a look at our canisters. Now you can see it barely used any of our fuel because we pressurized the regulator before the fact. Now that's the problem is if you put your stuff in the furnace, especially if you do a big chunk of it all at once, which I don't recommend doing. I recommend you do just small little increments like we did. Let's see, 30%. Nope, it's the other way, right? Because it's input 1, input 2. So input 2 actually needs to be the smaller one at 36 to 64. All right, and we're just going to wait for this thing to get rid of its temperature, and then we can let the air back in. As soon as all these little microparticles of superheated air get out of this thing. Okay, and now that the furnace has steadied out, we can go ahead and release the air back into this room. It should cool everything off very, very quickly, and we can even open the doors. And we should be able to breathe now. Let's go ahead and unlock our mask. There we go. And the air is breathable, and the furnace is still showing erratic temperature readings, even though it looks cold and the room is cold and the room is cooling off. Yeah, I'm not sure what that's all about. Let's go ahead and turn this console off and go put our materials up. We'll turn this light off, save power, and we'll run through this little pressure hallway, and here we go. I've had the portable air scrubber in here running because we had toxins in the atmosphere, so we'll put our solder here, and then our steel we're going to put right over here. There you have it, and this is our little resource area, and it looks like everything is pretty much good to go. These air scrubbers, these portable devices can be a little tricky to get through the doors. You've just got to finesse it a little bit. Just drag you back in here where the toxins are because we'll know next time to close the doors before we try to do silicone. Let's go ahead and get this in here. Here we go. We'll get the battery out, and we'll get the battery charging. And that's going to be where we wrap up the episode. This has been Stationeers episode 8. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've had a good time watching. As always, I've had a good time playing. Come back next time as we start to use our plentiful resources to expand our spaceship and maybe get it looking a little more spaceship-like. Oh, our cooler of construction supplies that I'm pretty sure I emptied. Nope, there's a solid generator in it, but it's storage, and we don't want to let it go because it's just going to come back as a projectile and hit us probably with more speed in the future. But yeah, you've seen how that goes. In any event, until next time, take care.